I saw Gregg Araki's Teen Apocalypse trilogy when I was way too young. It had a real lasting impression and basically sparked my interest in the shoegaze genre. My first exposure to Araki's films was the hyper-violent DoomGeneration, which in my eyes marks Araki's first career pinnacle, of which there will be a few. And like many other developing males of my generation who managed to see it early on, it changed me in more ways than one. But I'll be getting back to the Teen Apocalypse trilogy later. Subscribe to stay notified. But rather, I want to talk about the bizarre Teen Apocalypse companion piece Araki developed for MTV. This time, a surreal teen comedy with all the, classic Araki trademarks, except, without the good stuff, but a companion piece nonetheless. Little is known about this unaired and buried MTV pilot from the early 2000s, but I find it to be a great segue into Araki's headspace after the Apocalypse trilogy, almost taking what he had made and turning the volume all the way down to 1 before anybody else had the chance to do it. Some TV shows last forever. Others live on in the TV wasteland. How the hell do you make an Araki movie for MTV? That is one intriguing question. Araki kinda came up after the initial indie film boom of the 90s and didn't seem too concerned about it. When comparing his films to the other auteurs of the time, it's not only the extreme styles and subdued styles, and witty dialogue and set dressing and shit, just everything, but premise alone that gives off the scent of Araki. A young, good-looking, misled and confused artsy teen hangs out with friends, usually a girl best friend or confidant, maybe some kind of love triangle, and trouble at home, of course, and a second act involving either murder or kukuis and violence. It can't forget the violence, most of the time. But as non-violent as a lot of his stuff also can be, I think it's a safe assumption to say that Araki's violence and nudity and penchant for bodily functions seems to be a staple of his art, regardless. So when Araki decided to adapt his style for TV, I was intrigued. The little information available is still quite revealing. According to an interview with Gregg Araki, MTV projected the budget for this TV series pilot to be $1.5 million. Instead of giving him that amount, they only gave him $700,000 and were hoping to find partners that would finance the difference. And Araki likes doing things his way, so he offered to make the pilot for just the $700,000, and MTV of course took him up on it. And after the pilot was shot, it was not picked up for broadcast. Now this is revealing for a few reasons. One being that Araki obviously wanted to move into TV. This was done after his star-studded sex comedy Splendor, which for being as light-hearted as it is, was still pretty heavy-handed. But you can almost see the transition from Splendor to This Is How the World Ends. You can almost see his desire to do TV when viewing that film. And I'm assuming Araki saw the TV transition as a welcome challenge, especially with the really slashed budget. Another revealing issue is that it seems Araki was trying to introduce his style as some kind of stable for teen television. This kind of seems like a dreamlike version of Undressed or one of those other longer-lived, lesser quality shows. But here Araki seems to want to introduce his style and his other films to a new and younger audience, taking some shots and moments directly from his own movies.
Well, hurry up, hon. You don't want your pigs getting cold.
Oh.
What was that? I can't hear you, love.
The slash budget and whatever other mandates didn't seem to slow anything down, and he even seems to take some cues from Twin Peaks, as far as trying to figure out how to make such a weird TV show last. Definitely taking on a Twin Peaks feel from time to time.
Welcome to Noise. May I help you?
Yeah, do you guys have that new Sugar Ray CD?
Yeah, it's in Rock Pop under S.
The TV show even stars some Araki regulars, and has a quick appearance from 90s legend Justin Pierce. While the show didn't make it past the initial pilot, it later aired as a TV movie, albeit briefly, and the ending did leave it open for more. It ends with a glimpse of what could have been.
Next up on This Is How the World Ends.
So Magenta's starting to freak me out a little. Like, she's into some really dark stuff.
Have you ever done any modeling?
Yeah. You'll have to talk to my booking agent about that.
Not you. Here.
But alas, after this initial failure, Araki would return to film with what has become one of my favorite films of all time, seemingly maturing out of his comfort zone. But more on that some other time. He would go on to do more TV, successfully, and some that I'm sure will wind up on this show in the future. But for any fans of Araki's Apocalypse trilogy, This Is How the World Ends is the perfect end cap. A watered down, more satirical take on the elements being taken advantage of by its own creator, essentially lampooning his own style before anybody else did. Legend. This is the TV Wasteland. Be sure to subscribe.
Now, is this one that has that song, I just wanna fly, put your arms around me, baby, put your arms around me, baby,